Today we'll be making chocolate chip oatmeal cookies. Again, we're going to start with washing our hands. Always thoroughly washing our hands. Today's ingredients are flour, butter, sugar, vanilla, oats, a dash of salt, baking soda, packed brown sugar, honey, an egg, chocolate chips, a dash of cinnamon, and optional for this recipe is M&Ms. So, after washing our hands, the first thing we're going to be doing, when you make cookies, you always want to combine your butters and your sugars, and then you want to cream those together. So I'm going to start with my dry ingredients first. My dry ingredients are flour, cinnamon, baking soda, and salt. So I need a half a cup of flour. Now again, for doing flour, you do not want to scoop it like this, okay? Makes the flour too dense. So what you want to do is you want to scoop the flour in using a spoon, and then you're going to use the back of a butter knife to level it off. So there is a half a cup of flour. Okay. Next is cinnamon, baking soda, and salt. With the cinnamon, it calls for a dash of cinnamon. A dash of cinnamon is very basically just a tiny bit. You really don't want much. It's not even 1/8 of a teaspoon. Just a little bit of cinnamon to give it a cinnamon flavor. The same is true for salt. Okay. You can do a dash or a pinch. Okay, just a little bit of salt, maybe a little bit more than that. And your baking soda. Now baking soda, you do have to add a specified amount. We need 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. So again, you can scoop it out and use the back of a knife to level it off. Okay? When we're baking, our amounts are much more exact. With cooking, your amounts can be a little bit more varied. Then you're going to just whisk that together so that your dry ingredients are completely combined and all the baking soda isn't sitting in one place. Okay? Then you can put your whisk away. All right, next, I have softened my butter. Okay, I have 3 tablespoons of butter, and I softened them in the microwave for about 10 seconds. Okay? So I'm now going to cream my sugar and my butter together. Whenever you're doing a cookie recipe, it's kind of the same thing. You're always starting with the sugar and the butter, and you get it whipped into a creamy mixture before you add your dry ingredients. Okay, so this recipe, as far as sugar goes, calls for 1/4 cup of sugar and 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar. Now white sugar is a little bit different. White sugar, you can just scoop it and then again level it off to get your perfect 1/4 cup. Now with brown sugar, you can scoop it, but you also want to pack it. Okay, and that means you can use the back side of a knife or a spoon, and you want to pack it down nice and tight. Okay, you'll know that you packed your brown sugar well enough if once you add it to your bowl, it kind of keeps its shape, just like that. Okay. When we're using brown sugar in a cookie recipe, it's always packed. Okay, now I'm just going to mix this together until the sugars combine with the butter and get kind of creamy. You're just kind of cutting the butter in a little bit, like that. Okay. Then your next direction is to add in the honey, vanilla, and egg. Okay. So you're going to add in an egg. The way that I prefer to do an egg is to break my egg into my prep cup. The reason for that is if I make a mistake and I get some shell in it, it hasn't gone into my sugars. Okay, so I break it into a prep cup, put that in there. And then I need vanilla. The amount of vanilla is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then we're gonna actually weigh the honey. Okay, a teaspoon of vanilla. And then for the honey, I'm gonna actually put this onto the scale. Then I'm gonna turn it on, and I want it to be 7 grams. So this is set for ounces right now. So I'm gonna move this to grams. Okay, the G depicts grams. Okay, and we're gonna get as close to 7 grams as possible. There we go. If you go a little bit over, you're okay. All right, then you're going to continue mixing all of your wet ingredients until those are pretty combined. Once those are combined like that, you're going to then mix in your flour, baking soda, and salt. Okay. Mix that up gently so that the flour doesn't go everywhere. Once that's pretty combined, you're going to put in your oats. As far as oats go, you need a 1/2 cup and 1 tablespoon. So I'm gonna do a 1/2 cup. Where is my 1/2 cup? Here it is. A 1/2 cup. And then 1 tablespoon. Okay. Going to continue to mix. That will make your batter thicker because the oats will absorb some of the moisture. Okay. Then all that's left to add in is your chocolate chips and M&Ms if you're going to be using them. Okay. So chocolate chips, we need 1/4 cup plus 1 tablespoon. Okay, so here's your tablespoon. Okay. 1/4 cup. Okay. Again, mix those around. And then M&Ms. If you're going to use M&Ms, you're going to use 1/4 cup of those as well. I like to add M&Ms. Sometimes I like to add M&Ms if it is Halloween. They have the Halloween colored ones. If it's Christmas, they have the red and green, and that just makes the cookie a little bit more festive. Once you just gently mix that, once your chocolate chips and your M&Ms are in there, you want to just gently mix it, okay? So this cookie recipe does best if it sits overnight in the refrigerator. So what we're going to do next is you're going to use your cookie scoop, your small cookie scoop, and you're going to put down a piece of wax paper. And you're going to evenly scoop your cookies into here. When you're making cookies, it's very important that you do the best you can to make sure that the cookies are the same size, okay? You don't want some cookies to be giant and some cookies to be really small. And then you can put another layer, and then you're just going to put more cookies on the top. So this particular recipe does really well if you refrigerate your cookies. So the next day, we'll be doing the baking of the cookies. We'll pull them out of here, pull them out of the refrigerator, and we'll put them in the oven and bake them. Okay, so you'll put this into the fridge first. Okay? And if you notice, it has your period and your kitchen, and whether you're the first day, which is A, or the second day of cooking. Okay, so we'll take this over, we'll put those in the refrigerator, and then when we come into class tomorrow, you'll be baking your cookies. Okay, I've baked a batch so that you can see what the finished cookies are supposed to look like when they come out of the oven. They should look like this. Notice that I evenly spaced them apart. I laid them out in rows of 3, and I had 4 rows of 3. Okay, I would let those cool for a minute or 2 on the pan, and then I would likely load them onto my cooling rack and let them cool for a minute before we divided them up and enjoyed them. Hope your cookies turn out.